Olivier Jean skates firmly in hand. The World Cup means the world to him. He'll leave nothing to chance in Calgary today. Canada's flying Frenchmen head west to the Olympic Oval in Calgary, led by world record holder Charles Hamelin and 500-meter world champion Olivier Jean, who protects his skates with a bit more responsibility. In her 5th year on the senior circuit, Marianne Saint-Gelais has 9 gold medals to her credit. Looking for a second chance, Marie-Eve Drolet. She's on the fastest ice in the world. The foothills of the Rockies on a beautiful day, and it's quite a sight to behold the Olympic Oval in Calgary, one of the great legacy pieces of the 1988 Games. How many great long track speed skaters have been produced right here? But today, as we go to the ice, it's inside the Oval, the opener of the Intact Insurance Short Track World Cup in the Stampede City. Here we go, and we've got a little intrigue at the last Short Track World Championships in Warsaw, Poland. An American skater, Simon Cho, tampered with the skate of a Canadian, Olivier Jean, in advance of the 5,000-meter relay. Jean was forced to pull out. Canada finished dead last. A scandal ensued and called into question trust in the sport of short track speed skating.
A year and a half ago at the World Team Championships in Warsaw, Poland, after the U.S. team had been eliminated from competition, I tampered with a skate that belonged to a Canadian team skater after being pressured to do so by my coach, Jae-Soo Chun.
The tampering orders came from this man, U.S. coach Jae-Soo Chun. The allegations led to a suspension, and Chun has since quit. Several other members of the U.S. team have come forward with complaints of emotional and physical abuse from Chun. The skate tampering scandal has some concern about trusting other athletes.
Yeah, I think it's unacceptable and unethical from a coach to do that. I think you need to support your athlete.
A high-performance sport is a difficult environment, and athletes and coaches have to live on the edge to perform, and sometimes people interpret that as going over the edge.
Obviously, we want to have always someone in the locker room, because if nobody is in the locker room and we share with other countries.
U.S. Speed Skating released a statement saying they do not support Cho's actions. And as the investigations continue, both teams have decided this incident should not affect the sportsmanlike conduct which characterizes the sport and its athletes.
The event that happened back in 2011 was the first one in the history of short track in World Cup circuit. And I think it was just a mistake of like 1 or 2 people.
It happened so long ago. I need to focus on the future.
The important thing is that the US have dealt with their issue very well, and we can once again move on with a strong relationship.
In the wake of all this, we begin a brand new season, and to set it up for us, the longtime voice of speed skating on CBC, Steve Armitage, and 4-time Olympian Christina Groves.
Thanks, Scott. Hi, everyone. Hopefully we've heard the last of skate tampering, but Christina, you're going to show us just how easily it might have been done by Simon Cho with the skates of Olivier Jean.
Well, short track blades are highly engineered pieces of equipment. They're highly tuned, they have a bend in them, and they use this tool called a bender to get the perfect bend in these blades, so it helps them get around these tight corners. It's very easy to just pop a blade in here, bend it the wrong way, and it's virtually unskateable. So unfortunately it happened. Hopefully we won't see it again, but that's how it happened.
Skating on perfectly good skates this afternoon in the women's 1500 will be 2 very good Canadians, Marie-Eve Drolet and Valerie Malte.
Well, Marie-Eve Drolet has come back last year after a 6-year break, 1,500-meter specialist. They've started closing the gap on their teammate Marianne Saint-Gelais. So strong. She's been working on pressure in the straightaways. Look forward to seeing her improvements and hopefully have a good race.
And what about Valerie Malte?
Well,
yesterday setting a world record in the 1,000.
Valerie Malte has had extremely good improvement over the last couple of seasons. She's really starting to believe that she can be among the best in the world, improving constantly with her technique, setting a world record. She set the tone for this competition.
And in the men's 1,000, all eyes will be on Olivier Jean.
Absolutely. I mean, the Canadian team across the board is incredibly strong. Olivier Jean, unbeatable last year in the 500 meters. He's a big, strong guy. He's tall. He uses that to his advantage. I think any Canadian, particularly Olivier Jean, will be strong in the 1,000 meters.
And Olivier Jean is talking about world records because of the altitude here in Calgary and because of the great condition of the ice. We are expecting world records here at this World Cup. Welcome back to our Intact Insurance Championship Speed Skating Series on CBC. This is the World Cup from the Olympic Oval in Calgary, and we're getting set for the B final of the women's 1,500 meters. Two Canadians in this, Marianne Saint-Gelais and Jessica Gregg. Jessica Gregg coming off a concussion that kept her out of action for 10 months. Two Japanese skaters in this one. Biba Sakurai will be wearing helmet number 43, and wearing helmet number 45 is Yoshida Mori. And there is Marianne Saint-Gelais, better known as a 500-meter skater. She was the silver medalist at the Olympics in Vancouver, but she's really trying to extend herself and compete in all distances. And there is Jessica Gregg, who is coming off that concussion, hasn't skated for 10 months. Katarina Novotná of the Czech Republic. And next to her, representing China, Kong Zhu, a new face on the Chinese team. Haven't seen her around at the World Cup level. This is 13.5 laps, and it's the B final. So why are we covering the B final? Well, in the event that something happens in the A final, the B finalists can be moved up, and sometimes it's rare they can get to a medal position from the B final. There's Marianne Saint-Gelais.
Go to the start.
Under starters' orders, go to the start as the first command, and then ready. And after ready, they can't move. Absolutely no movement. 0.8 seconds.
Well, Jessica Gregg is coming back, like you mentioned, after a long break from a concussion. Marianne Saint-Gelais also coming back from a lot of injuries last year. She had a herniated disc in her back. She spent several months doing a lot of rehabilitation. She's much stronger. She's 100% healthy, although I would suspect she's a little bit disappointed about being in the B final. For Jessica Gregg, this is a great first competition back.
And there's jockeying for position at this point, as there always is. The 1,500 meters, very much a cat and mouse game. And right now, Yoshida of Japan is on top, followed by Katarina Novotná of the Czech Republic. And now Kong Zhu of China makes a move. The two Canadians currently sitting in 4th and 5th.
Well, it's a very slow pace early in this race. That's quite typical for 1,500 meters. You won't see the speed pick up until much later in the race. The key is to stay calm, to maintain control, be relaxed. Marianne making a nice outside pass, very smooth, very easy for her to make that pass. Not necessarily because she wants to make a move to win the race, but to get control.
Her better distances, no question, are the 500 and the 1,000, but she can also skate the 1,500. And she wants to do that because the 1,500 is an Olympic distance. Now, Jessica Gregg moves up and takes the lead for Canada.
Well, earlier, a slow pace early in the race will be an advantage for Jess Gregg. She is a pure 500 meters skater, and she will want to keep that pace slow so she can use her explosive speed towards the end of the race. She's going to want to skate a defensive track pattern at this point in the race, meaning trying to prevent skaters from passing her by going into the corners tight and coming out of the corners tight.
3 laps to go. Jessica Gregg in front, followed by Yoshida of Japan, then Marianne Saint-Gelais. This is the B final of the women's 1,500 meters.
Well, still very close, but you're going to see the speed pick up. Japanese skater winding up, trying to build up that speed on the outside to make an outside pass. Sometimes they'll spend a little bit of time on the outside, but come flying around with a lot of speed, as you see Marianne do right there.
They're on the final lap, just a few meters to go. They get that final turn, and it's Marianne Saint-Gelais. Saint-Gelais wins the B final. One of the Japanese skaters went down heavily with about 5 meters to go, but Marianne Saint-Gelais skated a perfect tactical race, and she wins the B final.
Well, she might be a little bit disappointed that that wasn't the A final, because you're right, that was a very smart tactical race. She made a little move early on, got control of the race, maintained the speed, and when the speed picked up everyone behind her, jockeying for that position. She was in control, could skate that tight track, which is so critical in short track speed skating, is to have these track patterns down pat. So nice, smooth skating. She was in control. A lot of skaters behind just sort of starting to panic a little bit, trying to make that move, and unfortunately a Japanese skater gone down quite hard there. Very critical to point out how safe the mat system is here in Calgary. It's one of the only systems in the world like it. There's no hard boards for these skaters to fall into. When they fall, the mats absorb the pressure, absorb the force of the fall, and the injury rate is much, much lower. It's really, really been developed strongly here in Calgary, and a very safe system.
That is Marianne Saint-Gelais, the winner of the B final. Gong Zhu of China finishes second. Yoshida of Japan is third. Jessica Gregg, it looked to me like she just ran out of gas late in that 1,500 meters. But that's not surprising because, as I said, she did sit out for 10 months because of that concussion. And we're glad to see her back. Marianne Saint-Gelais winning the B final in the 1,500. We're getting set now for the A final, and we will have a couple of Canadians skating in this one. One Canadian, Marie-Eve Drolet, the veteran, 30 years of age, skated in Salt Lake City and was fourth in the 1,500 meters, and then walked away from the sport. She was only 20 years of age, and she decided to come back a couple of years ago, and she is counting the days until the Olympics in Sochi. She hopes she qualifies and gets a chance to skate for the Canadian team at the Olympics. Olga Velyakova of Russia being introduced. This is the final of the women's 1,500 meters. And there is Ariana Fontana, who was bronze in the 500 at the Olympics in Vancouver, but is a very good 1,500 meter skater. She won 3 World Cup 1,500 meter finals last year. Shim, the 15-year-old from Korea. Marie-Eve Drolet. We had a chance to talk to Marie-Eve Drolet a couple of days ago, hoping to win more golds.
This year I really want to try to go for it. Even if something happened in the race, I want to go for the gold. I want one. And then maybe more then.
Marie-Eve has never won a gold medal at the World Cup level. She's been to the podium in past races, but never got to the top of the podium. She'd like to end that drought, and that's one of the skaters she'll have to beat, Ariana Fontana of Italy, now coached by Canada's Eric Bedard, one of the great Canadian short trackers from the past. And there is Shim, the 15-year-old. The Koreans are very high on her. They think they've got a good one. The Koreans have so much depth in the sport. 13.5 laps. This is the final. This will determine the medals in the women's 1,500 meters. Marie-Eve Drolet of Canada with helmet number 7.
This is Marie-Eve Drolet's specialty, but she did have a small injury at the Fall World Cup Trials in Calgary here a few weeks ago. Mild concussion. She took precautions, took a bit of time off the ice. She's back 100% healthy, looking for that first World Cup win.
Fontana taking the early lead.
One thing that Drolet has been working on this year, technically, is maintaining pressure in the straightaways. You're often going to see short track skating, they keep both feet on the ice in the straightaways. They can maintain the pressure without lifting their leg up because the straightaways are so short, they don't have time to do a big, long push. But Marie-Eve Drolet was losing pressure on that part. So you see they're trying to shorten up that recovery time, but maintain that pressure.
I asked Marie-Eve what the key was in the 1,500 meters, and she said patience. Lots of patience.
Absolutely. You're going to see the Koreans are very, very good at having patience. The two of them sitting quietly in the back, a little bit of a gap between them and the rest of the field. They're so known for making these huge outside passes in the 1,500. They wind up, they take a couple of laps on the outside, and they just slingshot around the rest of the field. I would suspect we might see that here as well.
Right now, Cho-Ha Ri and Shim of Korea sitting in 6th and 7th position. Belyakova of Russia is leading. Marie Evdrole of Canada sitting in 2nd place, followed by Arianna Fontana of Italy. 4 laps to go.
Well, now the race is starting. This is a very, very deep field. It's starting to spread out. People are making their moves. The speed has picked up significantly, and Marie Evdrole is down. That is not a good position to be in. Oh, that's so unfortunate for Marie Evdrole, but the race continues.
It looked like she had made a good move that was going to put her in 1st place, but unfortunately she is down. Shim is the leader, the 15-year-old. She gets the bell. Less than a lap to go, and Shim is going to get a gold medal. This is her first World Cup race, and she goes home with a gold. A terrific skate from the 15-year-old. Disappointment for Marie Evdrole, who looked like she was going to make a move to get herself into medal position, but she slipped and fell. Such is the nature of this unforgiving sport, short track speed skating. So it will not be a medal day for Marie Evdrole here in the women's 1500 meters.
Disappointing result. She was in a very good position throughout this race. I was impressed with her, how calm she was. She was smooth and relaxed. But as soon as the 4 laps came and everyone started to make their move, things heat up and she just went down on her own. Thankfully, she did not get in the way of anyone going around. Very close hitting Arianna Fontana there. That could have been quite a bad accident, but not a surprising result. The Koreans are typically very, very strong in the 1500 meters. The Russian also impressing me. Just the depth of this field. I think across the board, the strength in this sport and in this distance has started to improve. A lot more European skaters starting to be in the mix. Not the Koreans always winning, but in this case, of course, they've gone 1-2. So very typical result.
The Russians, of course, counting the days to the Olympics in Sochi, and they think they've got some short trackers who can get to the podium, but the Koreans, always a force in this sport, think they have a very good one in that 15-year-old youngster, Shim. The judges here at the Oval going over the final results of the women's 1500 meters. To make it official, they do have the use of the video replay to confirm just exactly what they saw. So when we come back with our Intact Insurance Championship Speed Skating Series on CBC from Calgary and the World Cup, we will have the men's 1500 meters with Charles Abbott. Stay with us.
Jeremy Wotherspoon is the most successful male speed skater in World Cup history. He's a 4-time World Sprint champion and a 13-time World Cup overall champion. Finishing his career in 2010, Wotherspoon compiled 67 World Cup victories, a silver medal at the 1998 Olympic Games, and 10 world records, cementing his place as a legend in the sport.
I think the thing I was most proud of was just loving speed skating. I think it sounds a bit strange, but even though it was hard work and not every day was fun, over the long term, I always had fun, and I look back on it fondly.
Welcome back to our Intact Insurance Championship Speed Skating Series on CBC. The World Cup from the Olympic Oval in Calgary, celebrating 25 years. Hard to believe that it was 25 years ago that this building was used for the 1988 speed skating long track. The short track was a demonstration sport back in that day. And the competitors, the skaters, are being introduced for the B final of the men's 1500 meters. And we do have a Canadian in this B final. And it will be Guillaume Bastille who will be introduced. You can see him in the background there. This is a pretty good field. It's got Yuma Sakurai of Japan, Kyle Carr of the United States, Victor Ahn of Russia. We just knew him as On when he skated for Korea, but he's since moved to Russia and hopes to qualify for the Russian team for the Olympics in Sochi. Chris Greveling of the United States, Yuri Confortola of Italy, Guillaume, as I mentioned, and Chen Dequan of China. This is the B final. And as I mentioned, with the women's B final, in the event that something were to happen in the A final, you could move up and gain more valuable points with a higher placing in the A final and perhaps even get to the podium. 13.5 laps. B final, men's 15.
There's been a lot of talk recently about blades and short track, and I think it's very important to point out just how specifically tuned these blades are for these skaters with the bend and the rocker. And one person in particular who is very in tune with his blades is Guillaume Bastille. He spends a lot of time tinkering with his blades, almost to the point where his coaches are trying to get him to back off. He gets very, very sensitive to the different measurements that they take with these blades, and sometimes that can be a good thing, and sometimes in short track you got to just skate. But they are very, very in tune with their blades.
Guillaume very comfortable at this distance, as is Michael Gilday of Yellowknife, but Gilday did not qualify for the B or the A final here at the World Cup, coming off a broken shoulder. But certainly Guillaume is probably Canada's best at this distance right now.
Well, Guillaume doesn't have a lot of explosive speed, but he's got very, very powerful engine, and he can go for a slightly shorter, longer time at a slower speed. So he's also a very intuitive skater. He knows where you are. He's very, very smart. Yves Hamlin said to me the other day, the short track program director, he said, Guillaume Bastille can read your mind.
That is Sakurai of Japan in front, followed by the Canadian. Now moving up to put himself in position is Chris Greveling of the United States. And we've got a skater down in the far corner, going heavily into the boards. And again, those safety boards here at the Olympic Oval paying big dividends.
Most of the skaters look like they're just biding their time still. The Italian skater coming back after a broken leg. This is his first competition back. Interesting to note that he skates a lot like his Canadian coach, Eric Bedard. His style is very, very similar. The speed's starting to pick up now with just 2 laps to go.
That is Greveling, who was in front, but he's overtaken by Sakurai of Japan. They are on the final lap. They have the bell. This is the B final, men's 1500. And there is On of Russia taking the lead, and he will win the B final. But another skater goes down and slams into the safety boards here at the Oval. They are really moving as they go in and out of those turns, and they are very sharp, and it doesn't take much to lose an edge and fall into those boards.
Well, you can see as the pace of the race picks up towards the end, it gets very, very crowded in the corners. Early on in the race, they're in a nice straight line like this. Everyone is smooth. There's not a lot of tight pack style kind of skating. But as the speed picks up, people are trying to start making those moves, and it starts to widen out, and you see things like skaters going down, a lot more crowded going into those corners as they try and get to the corner first. That was a pretty entertaining final, I would say, for a B final in terms of action and passing and falls, are just what we often see in short track speed skating. But you want to stay defensive, maintain your speed. Nice inside pass by the Russian skater. I'm continually impressed with the skill of the Russian team. Their passing has improved so much. I really think they're going to make quite a statement in the next few months leading into Sochi.
That is Victor On of Russia, who, as I said, at one point in his career was a very good skater with the Koreans, but has moved to Russia and hopes to lead the Russians to the Olympics in Sochi. He wins the B final in the men's 1500 meters. We've got the A final coming up, and we will have a Canadian in that final, Charles Hamlin, who many people will consider a better 500 and 1,000 meter skater, but he can also skate the 1500. He's been working very hard on that distance. And there you see the final of the B final. Anne Confortola and Guillaume Bastille. We had a chance to talk to Charles Hamelin about his hopes this season.
If you look at the result I had in the selection 1 month and a half ago, I did beat my my PB in the 500. I did beat my PB in the 1,000. Not in the 15, but I won both of the 15. So that talks. The result talks by itself.
A very confident Charles Hamelin getting set to compete in the A final and skate for the medals here in the men's 1,500 meters. Competitors about to be introduced. Seaman Elistratov of Russia. And next to him, Charles Hamelin was fourth at the World Championships in the 1,500, two-time world champion in the 500, 49 World Cup podiums in 41 World Cup races, 18 career wins. Other members of this final being introduced: Kwak Yoon Gi of Korea, Zakharov of Russia, No Jin-kyu of Korea, former world champion in the 1,500 and an overall world champion. So this is a very deep and good field. Yu Zhongjun of China rounding out the field. 6 skaters. Charles Hamelin with helmet number 99. There he is, hoping to add a 1,500 World Cup title to his long list of World Cup credits. 18 career wins. Can he make it number 19 here at the Oval in Calgary, the start of the World Cup season? Next week they're in Montreal.
Hard not to notice that there's 2 Russians in this A final, something I haven't seen before. We've seen the 2 Koreans time and time again. Charles in tough here against a couple of potential team skating opportunities.
And deciding to go in front, way in front early, is Zakharov, the younger of the 2 Russian skaters in this final.
Well, this might work to Charles' advantage, as he's talked repeatedly in the last couple of years about trying to change his strategy, particularly in the 1,000 and 1,500 meters. He's become somewhat predictable, often leading this race from the front for several laps throughout the race, and then sometimes losing it at the end. The Koreans doing the opposite, sitting at the back, taking their time and making a late move. So for Charles, he really needs to, in these A finals, if he wants to do that, work on this strategy, which he seems to be doing well at this moment in time.
Elistratov and Zakharov, the Russians, and right now it is Zakharov in front, but the 2 Koreans have positioned themselves perfectly. That is Kwak, I know, sitting second and third, and now one of them has decided to make a big move on the outside. Charles Hamelin is going with him and tucks himself into 3rd place.
Well, what skaters need when changes in speed happen like that is to be reactive and to be extremely agile. So we saw No make a quick burst of speed on the outside, picked up the pace of the race. As a skater like Charles in that position, he needs to be able to react to that quickly, and they work on this constantly in practice. Agility, the speed changes are so critical, from slow to fast to slow to fast in short track speed skating.
Koreans are 1-2. Charles Hamelin is sitting in 3rd position. It is No, followed by Kwak, and then it's Hamelin.
This is a smart race by Hamelin. He has a chance to make a move. He's talked so much about wanting to stay in this position, work on being in the pack, and now he's going to try for an outside pass.
They're on the bell lap, less than a lap to go. Hamelin makes a move. Can he get to the silver medal position? And I believe it's the Koreans 1-2, and Charles Hamelin will have to settle for the bronze in the final of the men's 1,500 meters here in Calgary. Strong race from the 2 Koreans, and no question about this, Christina, they did skate as a team.
Absolutely. Team skating used to be prohibited in short track speed skating. It is now allowed. Often you will see the Korean team do this. Canadians claim that they do not team skate if there's 2 in the final. They tend to skate their own race. Charles did what he wanted to do, what he's talked about, being in the pack, being comfortable in the pack, not constantly taking the race from the front. He did go for a late move. I did say it was an outside pass. I think what he was trying to do was do what we call a deep track, is where you go deep into the corner and then come around tight on the inside. He didn't quite have enough room there to go on the inside of the Korean skater, but he did what he wanted to do, and I think that's something that he should be looking to learn from as he moves through the World Cup season, continuing to try these new strategies.
That's a bit of a milestone for Charles Amelin. That's the 50th time in his career he's advanced to the World Cup podium. And it is a bronze medal for Charles Amelin in the men's 1,500 meters here in Calgary. The Koreans are 1-2. Leading the way is No, and second place to Kwa. We've got more speed skating from Calgary in a moment. It's the women's 1,000. Stay with us. Intact Insurance Championship Speed Skating Series on CBC. Thank you, Scott. We're getting set for the B final of the women's 1,000 meters. They are skating 2 1,000-meter races here in Calgary as part of the World Cup, and this is the first one. 3 skaters, Bianca Walter of Germany, Yui Sakai of Japan, and Fan Kei-shin of China. Fan Kei-shin, a former world champion at the 500-meter distance. And again, why are we covering the B final? Well, in the event that something should happen in the A final with a bunch of penalties or skaters falling down and not able to finish, the B final can be moved up. So there have been cases in the past, although it is rare, where they have actually won medals from the B final.
Well, sometimes the B final can seem kind of anticlimactic, but like you mentioned, it is quite important. These girls are racing for 5th and 6th place right now, so it is quite important for them. And to point out Bianca Walter from Germany, for her to be in a B final, this is a pretty big race for her. She's been creeping around the top 15, top 20 in the standings at the World Cup. And I spoke with her coach earlier this week, former American skater, and he said that she's really starting to believe that she can be among the best in the world with these girls. She's only 22 years old. Germany does not have a strong short track program. And so it's nice to see the development of the German team in this sport.
2 laps to go. Sakai of Japan leading this B final, followed by Walter of Germany, and then it is Fan Kei-shin of China. They get the bell. Less than a lap remaining. And Sakai has pretty much led this from the opening lap, and she is going to win the B final easily. A good placing for Walter of Germany as she finishes second, and Fan Kei-shin will finish in 3rd place in this B final of the women's 1,000. Still to come, the A final, where they're skating for the medals, and that will have a Canadian, Valerie Malte, the newly minted world record holder in the distance.
Well, unfortunately, a race with only 3 skaters, especially 1,000 meters, it really does reduce the number of opportunities for the exciting passes that we have come to love in short track speed skating that make the sport so exciting. With 3 skaters, especially with it stringing out towards the end, Japanese skater making her move on the outside, stringing it out like that, it does tend to be slightly less eventful, but again, these skaters should be very excited about being in the B final, particularly for Bianca Walter from Germany.
Good result for her. That's something that she can fall back on, and certainly hope to do better and get to A finals in the future. As the skaters for the A final do come on, there's the final results. Sakai wins it. Walter is second, and Fan finishes 3rd, the B final of the women's 1,000. But they are on the ice now for the A final. And all Canadian eyes here at the Oval in Calgary will be on Valerie Malte, wearing helmet number 10. She is in with Elise Christie, Liu of China, and Lee of Korea. There is Elise Christie. The Brits deciding to pour some money into short track speed skating, quite a bit of money, in the hopes that they can get a medal out of Sochi. There's Liu of China, and there's Valerie Malte. Set a world record in this distance, and she took advantage of the altitude and the ice conditions, and was skating really well in that 1,000.
She did skate beautifully in that race, and in the earlier rounds, they can go for the world records. In the final, I would see them going with strategy.
So the new world record holder in the distance, Valerie Malte of Canada, now skating for the medals in the final of the Women's World Cup here in Calgary.
I've been so impressed with Valerie Malte in the last 2 years, the development and the maturity that she has gone through to become an elite athlete. You know, she's made a really strong commitment to becoming very professional in her habits, the way she approaches training and nutrition. Across the board, the women's team has been doing this, and it's really nice to see the results start to happen for Valerie Malte.
Coming up to 6 laps to go. Christie is in front, followed by Liu of China, and then Malte sitting in 3rd position. Still a bit of a tactical race at this point. They haven't really opened up with all-out speed yet.
There's a coaching change this year on the Canadian women's team. Frederick Blackburn coming in to replace Sebastian Crow, who's been the women's coach for a couple of years. It was a bit of a transition, but they've done extremely well. Frederick Blackburn taking over that program, and now you see the fruits of the labors of that with Valerie Malte.
Big move by Valerie Malte. She's a little off balance, and that may cost her. A good move, followed by a bit of a misstep on the part of Malte, and Liu takes over the leadership, followed by the Korean. Now Malte tries to come back. They are on the bell lap, less than a lap to go. Can Malte go to the front? Malte sit way wide. She's not going to get a medal. And at the finish, it looks as if Lee picks up the gold in the women's 1,000. One too many moves by Valerie Malte, and it cost her. She does not get to the podium.
Well, she made the move when she did, which is what she needed to do. But I would have to see the replay before I could say whether or not that was a legal move. I need to see the shoulders, whether they were level with Elise Christie going in. There's a chance bumping out Elise Christie that she could be penalized for that. Unfortunate, she went for it. She did the move that she needed to do at the right time. A little bit of contact with Elise Christie, bumping her out. It's not something that you want to see. And at the end, she just kind of ran out of time. Here's the move. Setting it up very, very nicely. From this angle, I can't tell if her shoulders are even. This is where you need to look for even shoulders. I do not have quite enough of a judge eye to be able to tell whether or not that was a legal move or not. With the change in passing rules in the last couple of years, it used to be the inside skater had the right of way, but now the shoulders just you need to have your shoulders ahead. So photo finish here as well. I'm curious to find out about what they're going to do with that pass by Valerie Malte. There's a chance she could be penalized.
Well, that's how close it was at the finish.
Awarded by the referee to number 10, Valérie Malte, for impeding.
You're absolutely correct, Christina. Malte was penalized, and regardless of her finish, she would not have picked up a medal in this final of the women's 1,000 meters. No doubt disappointing for her, but I give her full marks for trying. She went out there and skated a hard race, a very aggressive race, but it just wasn't to be in this opening World Cup event. And here's the moment when she was penalized by the judges on the ice. So disappointing for Valerie Malte in this final. Valerie Malte doesn't get to the podium. We will have more Intact Insurance Championship Speed Skating Series on CBC in just a moment. Welcome back to our Intact Insurance Championship Speed Skating Series on CBC, the World Cup in Calgary. The skaters are just being introduced for the men's final of the 1,000 meters. And of course, all Canadian eyes will be on Olivier Jean, who I can guarantee you is really aware of where his skates are at all times.
we always have someone looking after our skate in between races or when we're warming down or warming up, when our skates are alone in the room. Now the technician is always there to make sure no one will have fun with our skates.
The final is underway in the men's 1,000 meters, and that is Olivier Jean wearing helmet number 101, currently in 4th position. But now Olivier Jean decides to go wide and challenge for the lead.
The whole skate tampering issue is ancient history for Olivier Jean. Put it past him almost 2 years ago now. He's not thinking about that. He's thinking about being the best speed skater in the world, and now he has this chance.
That's Thibaut Fauconnet of France in front. Also in this one, Kim of Korea, Grigorev of Russia, and J.R. Selsky of the United States. Olivier Jean in second place, but the American J.R. Selsky making a big move on the outside.
Smart move by Olivier Jean inside track. He now needs to defend this position. There's only 3 laps to go, coming up on 3 to go. He needs to defend his position by maintaining a defensive track pattern. He's doing this beautifully right now.
Olivier Jean in front, followed by Thibaut Fauconnet and J.R. Selsky. Selsky, one of the smaller skaters on the World Cup circuit, but he's very, very quick. It is Olivier Jean making the turn. He hears the bell. Less than a lap to go. Just a few meters now, and a big move by the Russian Grigorev. He takes over the lead, and Olivier Jean has to settle for the silver medal in the men's 1,000 meters. What a great final lap by Grigorev of Russia.
That was huge, absolutely brilliant. I think he took Olivier Jean by surprise on that last corner. He looked like he didn't know he was there. Probably could have moved in a little bit more to defend that position. I think he's going to be disappointed with that. I'm very impressed. I've seen the Russians do these late moves so many times in the last couple of days. Very, very powerful, explosive, couple of steps just to sneak on the inside of Olivier Jean there. A smart race by Olivier Jean, but I really think he was surprised at the end by the Russian skater for the finish. Good clean start, very crowded race. There's 5 big guys with the exception of J.R. Selsky from the US in this final, meaning someone has been advanced from previous rounds. Olivier Jean took control early in the race, which is very nice to see. He's quite big, he's got long arms, long legs. He uses his size to his advantage, but I really think this just got taken by surprise. The Russian was free and clear ahead of him going into that final turn, and no doubt he's happy with a silver medal, but these guys skate to win. They want to win. They're so competitive. They train all year to win. The Russian takes it.
Yesterday in qualifying for the 500, Grigorev set a new world record in the 500-meter distance, and now he wins a gold medal at the 1,000 meters. The Russians must be just smiling from ear to ear because they have a player. They have a contender who will be a force at the Olympics in Sochi in 2014. Grigorev takes the gold. Olivier Jean